What's going on, everybody? This is Gary B. Jr., and today we're going to talk about my top 5 recommendations to improve your live stream using FreeShow. So most people use FreeShow presentation software for their ministry or their church, for services, for meetings. It can be used for events or even podcasts or schools as well, but predominantly it's used in churches and ministries. And a lot of times those churches and ministries are using FreeShow to share lyrics. They're using it to share scriptures and, you know, teaching notes and things along those lines. So today I want to talk to you about the best way to improve your live stream. If you're a smaller church and you're doing live streaming, but maybe you're doing it from a phone or maybe you're doing it from a single camera and you've got it connected to your computer and you're connecting to OBS or you're connecting directly to Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, or maybe you've got an ATEM switcher. Any of those cameras will work, or maybe some of you all are using PTZ cameras. They all can work in conjunction with FreeShow, or better yet, I should say the other way, FreeShow can work in conjunction with them, especially with my recommendation of using OBS. So let's talk about how this would look, how this could work for you. So first thing I would say, when you're setting up your FreeShow for live streaming and things like that, is I would recommend getting your lower thirds templates together, right? Um, I always tell people the best thing to do to start with FreeShow is to set up your templates, set up your styles and things like that. And so these are general templates that you can have that are built in potentially. Some of them, others I've customized and made my own, but these won't work for what you need, right? So I've seen a lot of ministries, you can go online and you can look at them as well, where they'll have big boxes over the text, or they'll have something that's just covering up the whole screen, right, over their video. I like it to look professional. I like it to look clean. And so you can literally make your lower thirds completely custom using FreeShow very easily. And so what I've done is I've made some lower third categories in my templates. And from here, I've got one page for songs that you can see there. And so for the songs, you'll see it's got I got one with a box behind it. This a black box, lower thirds with a back box. As I say, it's not black, it's kind of transparent. I got one here that's lower lyrics 2, transparent. I got one that's default, this lower thirds blue. Lower thirds, I got one called blue 2 that I duplicated, and then one here. And there's another one with the pastel. This is a lower third lyrics. This is lower third blank as well. This is one with the logo. You can make them however you want. If you like some that you've seen that you don't currently have, you may be able to find those on my website. You can go to garybjr.com and go to the products page. And I've got several lower thirds and upper thirds templates that I really like. So I'm going to get down to those. Over here, I got some upper thirds templates, right? So, and they're designed for, in this case, for 2 lines of a song. But then if I go to lower thirds for scriptures, you'll see one here that's got 3 lines for scriptures along with the reference as well. You can get those on my website. And then we've got some lower third scriptures that involve 2 different Bible versions. That's a big deal for some ministries and churches. So if you need that, this is a good way to get it. And then uh, there's another one, upper thirds. This is one customized for my live stream that I do. Here's some more that are a part of some of my templates that you can find on my website that have the white box with the scripture reference right below it. Now, the important thing here is that you have something that does not cover your entire screen. All right. Now, the reason that that's important is because when you talk about a lower third, the idea is that it's showing up on the lower third portion of the screen, allowing whoever's talking or whatever's being shown, whether it's the worship team or it's the pastor or it's just a congregation shot, a wide angle, they still can be seen. All those things can still be seen. And the best way to make that work, from my own experience, is to use um, lower thirds as your templates. Now, the other option here, that these don't necessarily have anything to do with who's speaking. So my second suggestion to improve your live stream is to have lower thirds that show who the speaker is, right? To show the name of the church or the ministry, or to show maybe you want to show information on how to give or something along those lines. In my video right now that you're looking at, you'll see I've got a overlay down at the bottom. All right. Now yours doesn't need to be that low. I'm using mine just as a title for a marker to let you know what we're talking about. But for what this is about, you might want something that just comes in from the corner and just shows the name of the pastor and his position or her position, or maybe it shows a link to your website so that people can make donations and things like that. And so for me, I like to use overlays to do that. So if you go over to the overlays tab, you can literally make your overlays. So I've got, let's see, this is Sunday, lower third. So I've got one here that just kind of pops out, right? And so you can see there, it would show the speaker name. I've got it as a variable there. And so let's talk about why that looks like that. Because right now I've actually removed that variable. Let's make it work, right? And then I got it set to where it automatically disappears after 10 seconds, I believe. So let's go to functions and let's go to new variable. So this is how you would actually use these overlays to make sense for you. So I would go to new variable and I would do text, and I'm going to make this variable name be called speaker. And I'm just going to hit enter. All right. And now I go here and I'm going to say Gary. And every Sunday, your media team leaders or volunteers, whoever it is, can have this and just go into the variables under the functions and just type in who the speaker is. For me, I've got different topics for my live stream. I just type those in there, and those are all a part of my overlays as a dynamic value, which we'll get to here in a second. So if I go back to overlays, and this is my Sunday lower third, for example, you notice it's got a 10-second timer. I can right click on that and I can go to display duration. And this is helpful because it makes your live stream seem dynamic. It seems like someone's actively turning it on and turning it off, but you can change that duration to be 5 seconds. You can up it to be 20 seconds if you want to, however long you want it to be. I like the 10 seconds because it's there and it's visible long enough for people to see it, but it also is not there and being obtrusive. All right. So if I right click on this and I select edit, it's got this text box space for me to type in there. I don't want it to be speaker name. So I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to select dynamic values. Now you can put anything in there that you want to. You can put song names and video information in terms of countdown and audio stuff, all these different dynamic values. But I'm looking for the one at the bottom that's called variables. That category is the one that directly connects to that variable that I just made. And the one I made is called speaker. And it tells you what the actual content is in that variable right now. And I want it to be that one. So I select that and it shows up here. Now, it's set to be aligned to the right, which is fine with me. And then it's got this text box um, that's kind of curved and things like that. I customize all that as an item. And all I did is I go to my items and I just added a text box and I just customized it and put a border around it and made the text purple and made the border purple, made the background white. Okay. You would make this customized with your theme colors or your brand colors for your ministry. And so now if I were to show that particular overlay, right? And all you do to show the overlay is just click on it one time. And now it shows up and it shows my name and it's got it there. Now it looks kind of weird because I only got that one name. So if I were to do this, I would probably put the full name and I would probably put another line to show, their title or their position or something along those lines, maybe where they're from, right? So you can go back and you can right click on this and go to edit and you can say, I want to not make it be so small. Let's say we want to make it be a little bit bigger. So we can make this be bigger. And the reason why it's doing that right now is because there's a big padding on it. So I'm gonna go to my padding on the items and I'm gonna turn the padding down. Let's see what that does. All right. And the reason that I did that was because I don't want it to run off the edge. And so I got everything aligned to the right. But I can also change it to where it has what would be likely is the first and last name. So we'll do full name there. And now when we go back into our overlays and we click that, now notice what happens. This is important. You'll see that it ran off my name and that's what you don't want. So what I could do is a couple of things. I can maneuver it by just moving this item over to where that particular padding piece is there, or you can make this be separate from the actual border. You can just put a different text box in there. So you can make this all go away. So I'm going to cut that out and delete it. And then you can just put a whole new text box. So I would do items, and then I would do text box, and I would put that and make it smaller to where it'll just fit. And it'll stay transparent. You don't have to do anything special with that. And just drag that over here. And you can make it be where you want. And then I can bring this back over here to where it's not running. I want the edge to run off like it's just straight across. And now I got my other text box here. And I'm going to tape or paste in on this box. I don't want that one. So I'm going to delete that. I want it in this box. Let's see. And everything's really big in there. There we go. All right. So we go to text box. I'm going to turn on auto size. And that's there. And we'll make it a little bit bigger. So let's click on this text box here. And it's there. We can make it fit throughout all that. And I'll click on it on the outside edges and we'll just arrow it down. So we know it'll fit in this space without a problem, and it'll be big. Okay. All right. So now we've updated it. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to go back to my overlays. Oh, we need to change the color. Right now it's white with a shadow. We don't want the shadow. So we'll go to shadow. We'll just turn that off and we'll make the text be maybe a navy blue or something like that. And so now when I click it, check that out. It looks a lot better. It fits perfectly fine. It does the edge roll off like I want. I want that edge to roll off of there, which is great. But this is with a variable. And so each Sunday, the speaker may change. Maybe you have a guest speaker for the next couple of weeks or something along those lines. All you would do is go to your functions and just change the name of the speaker here, right? So maybe the next speaker you're going to have is TD Jakes. I don't know, right? So now when you do it and you go back to your overlays and you click that, that's what pops up. Okay. The speaker's name. And all your volunteer has to do is type that name in and they click that one time and it automatically comes on and it automatically goes away because I've got a 10-second timer. Overlays are a great way to enhance your live stream. All right. And you can do a lot of different things. You can make them come in from the other side. You can make it be across the whole bottom of the screen here and show some upcoming announcements or events. I mean, you can literally be free to do whatever you want, and you can make the function variable be the content that you keep up to date without ever having to manually go into it like I'm doing here to customize it. Because once you set this setup, it's done. I don't have to go in there and change that again. I just go to the overlay and click it, right? So let's say I want it to be, instead of it saying speaker, maybe we want one that's called website. All right, so type that in and I'll close this out. And we'll get rid of this. We're going to put Gary back in there. All right. And then website, we'll put in GaryBJr.com. All right. So I've got this variable, but it's not tied to any overlay. Right. So we can go back. We can go to overlays. I can actually add it to this one because I'm actually in the middle of editing it and we can see what that would look like. So I'm going to make one here and add it to this, and we'll make a new variable that's going to come in from this side that's going to say the same thing. And the first thing I'll do, let's see here. Let's see if it'll let us, if I right click on this, we can say duplicate. So I'm gonna just drag that over here. I'm gonna pull it over to the side, and then I'm gonna click in here. Let's see here. This is not letting me select it because it's all white there. It's hard to see. So speakers there. So I got that. If I go here, I can right click on it and I can duplicate that. I'm gonna drag that over here. And this is just me making them identical. You don't have to make yours identical. You can be as creative as you want. All right, so I got that there. And I'm gonna change this. Let's see, I'm gonna pull this over just a bit. All right. All right. And so now we don't want it to be the speaker. We want it to be the website. So I'll delete the word speaker out of this box, but I'm going to right click in there and select dynamic values. Your variables are your dynamic values. So I'm going to go to dynamic, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and look at here, we got website. So I can click that, and now website is there. If I go to the text box settings, you'll notice auto size is still on, font size is still 100, the color's still the same because I just duplicated it. If you want consistency, this is the best way to keep it, right? So now, if I go to click that particular overlay, watch what happens here. And there you go. You got the website there, and you got the actual name of the person speaking. For you all, it'll be your church website and your name, your speaker's name, and they'll go away in 10 seconds. You can make them different sizes, smaller, larger, whatever you want to do. But first thing we said was use lower thirds. And then secondly, use overlays with that variable function to help streamline your process for your live stream. All right. Now, the next thing, let me pull this back over. The next thing I would say is to set up a custom live stream style and output. Now, like I said, I've talked to a number of different ministries, and a lot of them like to use the primary output as their only output. So if we were doing songs, scriptures, or something along those lines, so I'm gonna go to my shows, and I've got a bunch of different shows. So let's say we got this one here, and we'll go back to show so you can see it how it would look. If I were to, and I don't need this lyrics to play, so we don't need that. So if I were to go here, right, I've got this show. This is my in-house show. This is what the ministry is going to see. If I arrow to the right, you'll see that there is the next slide, or it should be the next slide. Let's see here. There we go. So this one's not showing. I've got a condition might probably set on this. Let's go back. And so let me turn off the condition. That was for another training. Let's go back to show and let's refresh. All right. So this is typically what you'll see. All right. In-house, this is what it'll look like. It looks great. The I is lowercase, which is kind of weird. So let's change that really quick. Go to that slide and I'll change that to be a capital I. All right. Now, it's set to be big enough like I want. I like my text to be really big. Some people may not like that. So what you can do is you could just go into your templates and make it be smaller, right? So you can go into, I got song templates here. Maybe I don't want it to be that big. Maybe I just want it to be the default size. So I can do something like that. And then all I got to do is hit this update and it'll change. And so now it looks like that. And this is fine as well. As long as your screens are big enough, it really won't matter because the goal is for it to be a useful tool in the ministry. That's the main thing to me. And I've got this one set on a timer, so it's actually running on its own. So let me stop the timer real quick. We'll turn that off too. All right. But the idea here is when we use our show, whether it's songs, whether it's scriptures or whatever it is, we don't necessarily want it to show this on our live stream. We want to be able to show our camera feed. And that's where I've got this live stream set up. And so I've got a live stream set up and it's completely transparent. And I'll show you how I'm using that for this particular recording because I'm using OBS in conjunction with it. But we got to set this up. All right. So the first thing you got to do is you got to go into your styles in the settings and you go to styles. And remember, we talked about those templates for lower thirds and upper thirds. I've got one called streaming or stream training. All right. And this stream training is designed to use upper thirds. Okay. And then also for lyrics and also for my scriptures. And I've got it set here. So active layers, it's got background and slide deactivated. The only thing that's showing up on this is the overlays. Now, I want this to actually show more than just the overlays. I want it to actually show my text. So if I click this now, you'll see that I've got an upper third showing up here. Now, where does that matter? Well, if you're looking at my video, you'll see the upper third show up at the top of the screen up there because this is actually the live stream feed showing up over my OBS feed, right? So if I were to click here, we'll come out of that and I'm going to go here and let you see my OBS feed so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So in OBS, I've got it set up like this. And ignore the eternal box there. But I've got my sources, I've got a scene here. And in this scene, I've got a yellow background. That's this part here. Okay. You don't have to have that for your ministry. Probably wouldn't make sense. This is just for my live stream and my recording. Then I've got a white box. That's what you see here. So if I click on it, you'll see it's this white box here that's in the background. It looks like it's an outline, but it's really just one big box. And so the reason I say that is if I do this, you'll see it's just a white box back there, right? If I mute this one, you'll see it's just a white box completely back there. All right. Bring those back. And that's what it looks like. All right. Now the live stream or the top. So I've got this top. This is actually my screen capture of this particular window that I'm on. And then FreeShow live stream. This is the FreeShow overlay that has the actual scripture lyrics and the overlay that I've got. For your ministry, you probably won't have something down here like this unless you want to keep your website, for example, at the bottom, for example, or maybe the title of the message at the bottom at all times. That would make sense, right? I'm using it as a topic marker for me, for my live stream. You all could use it for whatever you want, and you can do something like that, right? Now, I'm going to come back over to, I'm going to minimize this and bring it out the way. We're going to go back to FreeShow, or yeah, to FreeShow. If I were to turn on the background, something weird would happen. So if I turn on background, check out what happens. It literally just shows you a big blank background because my entire live stream feed is covering the entire window of my live stream. I don't want that. So I'm going to turn my background back off. And now it's back. You can see here that I'm here and you can see everything. But the reason that's important is you don't want to have a background showing on your live stream feed because you want your camera to show through or whatever you're putting on your OBS program to show through with your lyrics or your scriptures on top of that, literally layer by layer. And so how do we make this be a transparent background? Well, we went to our outputs and then we started here at live stream. I made a new output. I just hit add at the bottom there. I started here and then I set up my style to be that streaming style to where it was stream training and it doesn't have a background on it. But I also needed to enable it for one. And then I set up always on top. That's just a good default to a good habit to have. And I turned on NDI. This is how you can see it in OBS, which we'll talk about in a minute. But along with these things in NDI, the most important part is to make sure that you have it set as a transparent background, right? That's what makes it to where your overlays will not interfere with, or your background, I should say, won't interfere with your live stream. Because if I didn't turn this on, it'll actually turn black. Okay. But we don't want it to be black. We want it to be completely see-through. So we have to turn on transparent. And this is the key to making sure your live streams flow. If you have a camera and you've got FreeShow and you've got OBS, this is the key to make sure that they all work together seamlessly. I've got mine set to an invisible window because I'm literally not sending this signal to any real source, right? I'm not sending it to a projector or a monitor in-house. I'm literally just sending it to OBS. So it literally is not a real window that I'm sending an output from my computer with an HDMI signal. It's only going to OBS through NDI. All right. Which brings me to the next point. So step number 4 or tip number 4, set up OBS and NDI. And I would say to use a wired network preferably, right? So instead of doing it wirelessly, which you can, I would recommend doing it over a wired network because if you're at a church, you're not the only person there typically. If anybody has access to that network, which in some churches the whole congregation can have access to the wireless network, they'll get on it because their phones may default to get on, especially if it's open network, an open, free access point for them. They'll do that to save data, whatever it is they want to do. Maybe it's faster than their cellular plan or whatever it is. And so it's going to take a load on your system or your signal. So you want to make sure that either you have a separate router for the congregation and one for your ministry team that's completely locked down and separate and secured, or you have all of your computers for the network or for the media team network together wired. All right, which is what I would recommend no matter what, right? I would recommend having everything wired. It just gives you a better fail safe. If there's any room for something to go wrong, usually it's not going to happen on a wired network before it happens on a Wi-Fi network. All right. So have it wired, still turn on the transparent window, use OBS. Now in OBS, let's go back to my window here. So I've got OBS here. In OBS, if you go to tools, there's this program or this plugin called Distro AV NDI. You would have to go to the internet, type in that, and you'll find it. Download that. If you've already got OBS, it'll automatically plug in as a tool here. And then if I go to my settings, I've got it set to where I don't have any of my outputs actually going out over NDI from here, but it is on and is active on the program. So it actually can read NDI signals coming in and not just sending them out. So you can send out your main or program through NDI using this program or this plugin, but you also can receive. So I actually went to add this FreeShow live stream. I actually went to my plus sign under sources and I went to NDI source. And I've got options, right? So you can type in whatever you want. I've called mines down here. They're the existing ones here. One's called live stream, one's called primary. They both have FS, which represents free show for me. All right. So if I were going to make a new one, let's call it NDI source. I'm not going to make it visible in terms of that there. So let's go to OK. And what I'll do is I'll let you see. So I've got two different ones, both of them coming from my MacBook. One is the primary, and you'll see that pops up there. If I select that, that's the primary source, which is in-house basically. And then I've got the live stream, which is different. Okay. And that's the one that's already active. So I don't need to do it. I'm going to cancel, but you would hit OK. It would lock in and it'll be a source here. Right. And I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to take it off on mine because I already have it as FreeShow live stream. And it should be the top layer. Okay. On all of your sources, you want your FreeShow, live stream feed to be at the top. And typically you want your camera to be at the bottom or at the bottom, before, under the live stream, right? So if I turned top screen, let's see here, this says top screen. If I turn that off and I've got my GH6 here, this is literally my camera feed, right? And I make this go away here and I make that go away there. This would be the ideal setup, and this would just fill the screen, right? The video would fill the screen. Now, if I move this around, you'll see that the video is actually behind the text. That's what you want. Let me undo that move, but that's what you want. You want your video to be behind your text, and your whole service and all that kind of stuff will show up with the text on top of it. Now, this is an upper thirds. You might choose to do the lower thirds. That's completely up to you. You can get those on my website completely free, GaryBJr.com. Upper thirds and lower thirds. I like the transparent backgrounds where they're just text with no boxes, but I do like the boxes as well for certain situations. And maybe you do the boxes for your scriptures, and maybe you do your transparent for your songs. You completely have freedom to do whatever you want. Okay. Now to take it up a level, right? So you got all that stuff set up and you got to manage that throughout the service, which that's completely up to you how you want to manage it. The next thing you could do is you could do something called Bitfocus Companion. All right. Bitfocus Companion is really cool. This is a program that I currently use for my live stream. And the reason I like it is because I actually use it with my tablet. Let me pull it off. It's Velcroed on, but I've got my tablet here. And this is the same thing you guys are seeing there. That's exactly what I've got here on my tablet. All right. Now, let me put this back. The reason why that's important is because you can set up certain things to happen with your companion software. In this case, for example, I've got mine set to record my OBS, but I also have a button here that I can go live, right? So those would be some basic functions that I would recommend any ministry do. I would always recommend recording your service. If you don't have an ATEM or you're not recording directly to the camera, I would always say make sure to record it at least from OBS so you can have that as a good backup, right? The next thing is live streaming. You can make a button that just makes it go live, right? So how do you do this with this particular program? Well, the first thing is you've got to set up a connection. And in this case, I've got a connection for FreeShow. I've got a connection for OBS. If you just want to control OBS, you just need an OBS connection and you just search over here for add a connection, okay? That's the first thing. So I can type in OBS and you'll see OBS Studio. I click add and I've already done it. So I'm not going to do it a second time. If you've got an ATEM, this program can talk to your ATEM as well. I'm giving you a very basic intro as to my top 5 recommendations to improve your live stream. The reason this is in the top 5 is because this simplifies the life of a volunteer. They don't have to go searching through the computer. They literally can go to the companion interface, and I've got it on a tablet. They can have it on a phone. You could have it on another computer or on the same computer, right? So if I go to, let's see here, triggers, we got variables. Modules. They got surfaces. Let's see. I want to just go to they used to have a thing called web buttons, but I don't know if they do that anymore. Let's see here. Buttons. I don't see that. Maybe surfaces. No. Discover, remote. I don't see anything for that. But what you can do is you can pull up down here at the bottom, interactive buttons. So I can go down here to web buttons. I just updated this. So this is like a beta version. In the older version, it's a different place. But under interactive buttons, you can select web buttons and it'll open up a whole nother tab that looks just like what you just designed, right? And so I've got other buttons down here as well. I don't use these as much. These are my first page of buttons here. And you can see the time is set. You don't have to have that, but you can. These are my different scenes from OBS. Okay. Right now I'm using the split share. That's why it's green. So you see my face and you can see the screen that I'm sharing with it in terms of this screen here. And then I've got some buttons that interact with FreeShow. I've got some buttons that interact for audio, and I can easily mute my microphone from this without having to go to the soundboard, without having to go into OBS. I literally can just tap it on my tablet and it mutes it. And then I've also got some information here about how much memory is being used and CPU storage and all that stuff, or CPU usage. And then I've got some topics that I've made, Q&A and all that kind of stuff. So these are easy to use setup buttons. And remember, we talked about those overlays, right? So if we wanted to, we could make a button that showed the speaker overlay. So if I go up here, I'm gonna go to this blank button and I'm gonna call this speaker and website. Because we made that overlay. Let me type it in right. All right, we made that overlay and we're just gonna make this button trigger that overlay. So the first thing we gotta do is let's go back over to FreeShow and we're gonna go to show. I'm just gonna go into my overlays and I wanna see, this is called guest LT2. All right, best thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually go in here and I'm going to act like I'm renaming it. I'm just gonna copy that. All right, I'm just copying out the title. That's the name of my overlay. All right, so let's go back over. We're in Companion and we want this to be, I'm gonna delete this. So we want this to be our button. We get to go down here to say press action. So when you press this button, what action do you want to happen? You click the little red folder and you see all the different things that you're connected to. FreeShow, OBS, ATEM, and that you have been connected to. Because I'm not actually using my ATEM right now, but it does show you the options for it. If I go to FreeShow, let's see what options we got. We got clear overlays, right? But we don't want to do that. We want to actually activate an overlay if we can do so. Let's see here. Outputs, slideshow, start, show by name, slide name. Let's see, start timer, run action by ID. I'm just looking to make sure, let's say next scripture verse, project, custom variable. So what we might need to do is we might need to make a special, let's see, change transition. Nope. So we're going to try to make a actual action to do this. So we're going to do a run action by name and let's see if that'll work, right? So I don't see an option. Let's see, select output, project, show, slide, stage, timer, toggle overlay by index, toggle overlay by name. That's the one we want. I just overlooked it. So I click that and what ends up happening is that it pops up over here, all right? So toggle overlay by name and I go here and I'm going to paste this in. Guest LT2, that's the name of it. Make sure there's nothing in between that. All right, so now let's test it out. Let's see if it actually works. So if I hit test, what should happen is it should actually pop up the overlay. So let's go here and let's look. And there it is. The overlay is there. I can see it. It popped up. And so now as a volunteer, whenever I want to show the name of the speaker and the website, I just click this button on the iPad or on the phone or on the website pretty easily without having to go into FreeShow at all. And so we can do some other things with this button to make it a little bit easier to see. So maybe we make the background, instead of it being black, we can change the background and maybe we want it to be yellow. Okay. Now we make it yellow, the text can't be white. It's hard to see. So we'll make the text maybe gray. Maybe we make the text red. Completely up to you. All right. But that stands out well enough. Speaker and website. That's there, right? So now if I go to the emulator, you'll see speaker and website. Now notice right now there's no overlays on, okay, except the one down here, but there's that overlay is not on. So I can go here. When I click it, boom, it pops it up and everybody can see it. And I got it set to where it automatically goes away after 10 seconds. So you don't have to click it again. It'll automatically go away on its own. And there it goes. And so this is a cool way to improve your live stream using Companion. You can set up a recording button. So let me show you what that looks like. This button here is set to just say start recording in OBS, right? So the same idea. I went to my folders and you can add as many actions as you want for any button. So I'm gonna go back and just act like I'm gonna add it. I'm not gonna do it, but you've got the options to adjust the audio balance, audio sync, custom commands, enable studio mode, disable. And all I'm looking for is record, right? So I can go up here and I'm just type a search. I'm just type in record and I'm looking for it in OBS and there's an option that just says start recording, right? And they got other options to stop recording, toggle the recording, pause, pause recording here, resume recording. All those different options are there, right? I'm not going to select any of them because I've already got it actively set here, but I can add other buttons to do multiple things. So for example, my topics here actually have three things going on. One of them, first thing they do is they clear overlays. The second thing they do is they wait for 30 milliseconds and then they bring up the overlay or toggle the overlay by name that I want. Okay. And so that's one of my other overlays, GB Junior LT, lower thirds. And that's the one that you see down there for improve your live stream. All right. So those things are what I would recommend. One, set up your lower thirds templates. If you need some, you can go to my website, GaryBJr.com. Then set up your lower thirds overlays, which it shows the names, the ministry name. Maybe you want to put in there where people can give to. And then number three, set up a live stream style and output. That allows it to be transparent, like we talked about. It also allows you to use NDI, which takes us to point number four, which is set up OBS and your NDI settings over a wired network, preferably. And then number five, create some basic companion buttons, right? Maybe you want to set up to start your live stream or to start recording or activate the overlays that we talked about. You can even put one in here that takes you to the next slide, right? So your volunteer is literally just pressing one button on one program and it changes the slides for them, okay? And all they're doing is starting recording or you starting recording from that same program and it automatically does it along with record all from one program. Hopefully this gives you some insight on some ideas on things you can do to improve your ministry live stream that are easy to do, right? Easy to set up. And then they're kind of like a set it and forget it. Once you set it up, you don't have to do this every week. The only thing you're doing every week, in my recommendation, is you're going into your functions and you're typing in the name of the speaker, the name of your website. And then I've got some other things here that I use for my topics for my live stream. I type in 3 topics and that's it. Everything else is a button on my Companion app, which I'm using on my tablet. You might want to invest in a Stream Deck if you don't have one already. It'll give you the interface with physical buttons and things like that, but you don't have to. Like I said, I love doing things for free. So FreeShow is completely free. OBS completely free. And Bitfocus Companion completely free. And you can use it with any device that you currently have, right? Even if it's just a computer that you've already got, right? So hopefully this gives you some understanding of ways you can improve. Go out there, enjoy your next service, try to implement one of these things or multiple or all of them, and let me know how it works out in the comments below. Talk to you next time.